Hi, so the purpose of this reflection is really to look over a recent film studies class that I took in relation to an assessment that the learners are required to do as part of the homework, but also part of to see how their practice is going moving forward in terms of their technique and overall structure of their paragraphs, and also to see and for myself to monitor the progress that the students are making, as this is primarily the first time this content has been delivered in the classroom post-pandemic. So really, this is quite an important stage I wanted to reflect upon. So really, as you can see probably from the examples below, there's a few examples of marking I've given back. This basically I structured it in terms of what went well and also further even better risks for the students to follow. I set this out for all the learners in a simple way. I tried to keep the feedback necessarily straightforward, as I didn't want to be too critical in their first attempt at writing these responses for the exam-based question that I provided. So from the lesson slides that I've also provided upon this reflection, you can see the tasks that I really wanted to go over once I gave this feedback. So really from the green pen writing that you might see from the images above, or at least the signs on this certain page, is that with these what went wells and even better ifs, each student were required to really look over them and look at the back of their answers and potentially add or make additions to how they think they could improve, but also be aware that what they are doing so far is in terms like really good. And for a first attempt, the vast majority, well, not even the vast majority, all the learners were at a good standard for where I would expect at this point in the course. Expanded upon that task as well. What I really wanted to do was also provide an example-based essay for them to look over. So this was a high marking 18 out of 20 style question, and also example that the kids would read over and ultimately reflect upon, but then also look at the marking criteria that I provide them from the actual exam board themselves, and then also think about what mark could they give that in terms of what they've looked at and wrote for their own responses in comparison to this one. The vast majority of students were actually quite surprised with the grade that actually came out from it. I mean, a lot of them gave it lower than I was expecting, so probably that is a good thing in relation to they think they can achieve more based on their own future responses. But you can see the actual example provided as well further down on the images provided. In terms of the standards, I feel I met with this one. Definitely standard 3 in terms of I was able to motivate and raise aspirations for certain learners. I mean, I feel with some particular members of that cohort I take, they feel that maybe they're not entirely understanding the course. However, I like to think with this particular lesson, they can see they are actually making progress and it's all moving in a positive direction. I think this also goes in line with S13 as well. So they're able to promote and achieve and develop their skills for progression. So now they're aware of more so what they need to include more so to get a higher grade, they really now know what they need to do to progress and improve upon their answers when it comes to assessing again in the very near future. And I think also if we look at Standard 17, this really also gave the opportunity for learners to share responsibility for learning and their assessment, but also really to stretch and challenge those that maybe weren't so sure, but are now able to see what they need to do to improve upon their answers. I also provided good clear feedback if we're going to consider Standard 18 as well. So I tried to do it within a very quick time period over the week in time for the next lesson, so they could see that, you know, I am committed to actually giving them solid feedback. But I also think this was very good, well, perhaps slightly difficult assessment method to start off with, but to at least show them where their knowledge is at. And again, like I previously mentioned, they are all at a very good standard anyway. So really, it's just minor tweaks that will help them get up to this higher grade. And then finally, I think if we're going to consider standard 20 as well, the actual overall content for this particular subject is related to film studies and pulp fiction. So a lot of this content hadn't been delivered in class before due to the pandemic, so a lot of this resources that I created had to be adapted and applied to the classroom. And I'm hoping that really, as you can see from the feedback that I've given and also the progress the students are slowly but surely making, that really I've been able to make it a good quality improvement on these sort of resources provided as well.